I'm Scott Brady with Overland Journal and Expedition Portal, and we are one of the first in the world to be able to drive the new Hummer EV. Now, it's easy to spend a lot of time going through specs, which we're not going to do today because we were actually able to drive this vehicle. So we can start off with 1,000 horsepower, 10,000 plus foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and we were able to experience all of that today. But how does it do on the trail? How does it do on the dirt roads? How does it do on the highway? So we started off, we left the test area here, and we immediately went into a gravel road acceleration sequence. So this was maximum wide open throttle on a mixed mu surface, so mixed traction surface that went from decomposed granite and gravel and even hardened dirt. And that was a great experience for the total available power and traction. The vehicle squatted nicely. The air suspension allows it to be very adaptive to that kind of input. An enormous amount of torque. I can't even describe it. It's amazing that it had that much tractive performance as it did. Now, these are premium 35-inch off-road tires on an 18-inch wheel, so they do have quite a bit of grip, but the traction control system worked seamlessly, and we had a very hard launch.
Explore it, whatever.
Okay. Nice little bit of torque steer. So this launched harder than most sports cars would on the pavement. What I did notice was a little bit of movement from the front end because this is a traditional differential, so I'm getting a little bit of torque steer out of the vehicle, a little bit of movement as it hits different traction surfaces and starts to break free, but all very controllable. Whereas the rear end, extremely planted, not a lot of movement out of the rear end. Next thing we went right into was beginning to understand how the rear wheel steering system works. Now, this is going to be one of the key features of this truck. It's a big, heavy vehicle, and it has a lot of off-road capability. So if you want to minimize body damage and you want to maximize the tight and technical trails that you drive, that rear steering is really important. So when you're at low speed and you put in a traditional main shaft angle input to the steering wheel, the rear tires can actually turn up to 10 degrees. It's very seamless. It's a little bit interesting at first because the rear actually responds a little bit more quickly than the front. So you actually feel the tail wag a little bit as it lines up for whatever you're steering it towards. But again, once you get used to it, very seamless and it works very well. The next thing we were able to do was a tight turning radius turn. This vehicle gets down to 37-foot turning radius, which is going to beat any Wrangler out there. So that's an impressive thing to experience, turning within essentially the confines of a single dirt road. After that, we went into crab mode. This is selected on the center stack. There's a button that you hold down for about 5 seconds. It asks for some confirmations, probably to keep you from doing anything stupid. And then when you put in that, again, that main shaft angle, the rear tires turn in conjunction with the front tires. So it actually allows the vehicle to crab sideways, which would be very effective on the trail. But the scenario that came to mind for me that would be the most effective is the vehicle starts to slide towards the edge of the trail. You could turn that on and actually drive the vehicle back up onto the trail without the rear sliding down further. So that's a very effective solution to that problem. All right, now everybody wants to know how this does in the rocks. So you have up to 16 inches of ground clearance. You can raise the air suspension, a 35-inch diameter tire, full-length skid plates underneath, full-length rock rails as well, and up to 50 degrees of approach angle. So this was a genuine rock crawling course. In fact, the vehicle was not able to complete the course using it in traditional mode. So, and the reason for that is 2 of the tires were packed right up against a ledge. And so the brake traction control is trying to minimize wheel spin, which was robbing too much power from the electric motors. And as we know, electric motors require just a little bit of movement in order to start to develop maximum torque. So the vehicle actually stalled out on those 2 ledges, but we can solve that with a traditional mechanical front locking differential. So I locked the front diff, put the rear in the most aggressive mode possible, and it climbed right up it. Now we got the wheel spin.
Okay, well, try both.
We're right on 2 rock ledges.
Now, you got to do rear first.
Okay, understood.
Yep.
Oop,
and then it's 5-second push and hold.
And then a 5-second push and hold on this? Okay. All right, let's see what that'll do. next thing that I experienced was single pedal driving mode. So this is like what I would traditionally do with left foot braking. So you apply a little bit of throttle, it comes up the rock, you start to come off of the throttle, and it actually applies braking in that, actually regen and braking at the same time. So very effective control of the vehicle with just a single pedal. Now, I prefer left foot braking still, even with this truck, and I moved back over to left foot braking, and it even allows for that as well. It doesn't disable any of the traction systems on the vehicle. All right, getting into high-speed dirt travel. So we are on a very low traction surface. The engineer was very generous and allowed me to drive it as fast as I dared. And so I was doing braking in a corner, I was doing high-speed acceleration, I was doing heavy braking in a straight line. In all of those conditions, the vehicle performed as I would expect. One thing that was very interesting, and this is something that's new to electrics, is because of regen, you'd come in hot into a corner. If you do heavy lift throttle, the regen kicks in and it actually steps the truck out just right, just the right amount. So it's actually a fun way to do lift throttle oversteer that's actually initiated by the regen. So very interesting things that I'm experiencing with an electric vehicle. All right, now the last thing I want to talk about is watts to freedom. They have a mode that's called WTF, which we all know what that means, and that's exactly what you think when you experience it. And we were on their big, huge circle track, paved oval, at a stop. You go mash the brakes, mash the throttle. When you lift the brake, it goes 0 to 60 faster than just about anything I've ever experienced. And to do it on 35-inch tall tires and a vehicle that you could take on an overland trail is something to experience. So as we conclude this here, talk a little bit about the inside. It is a very comfortable vehicle to drive. At first I thought, man, these headrests are a little bit oversized, until we did the watts to freedom maneuver, and then I realized why the headrests are as big as they are, because it throws you back into the seat.
3, 2. We're doing 85 miles an hour.
Steering wheel is really comfortable, properly weighted. One of the things we're experiencing with electric vehicles and a lot of new vehicles is they're too light on steering. It feels like a truck, drives like a truck. When you're driving at high speeds off-road, it allows you to have all kinds of fun, which means you can step the vehicle out. And as long as you're doing it smoothly, where none of the inputs are too erratic, the vehicle actually lets you do it automatically. You don't need to set anything. So that's a pretty useful consideration by the engineers here as well. So overall, an impressive vehicle. It's incredible to think how this heavy of a vehicle can move this sure-footedly through the terrain and even at high speed on the highway as well. A couple considerations: it is very expensive, so it will not be available to the masses quite yet, but I think a lot of this technology will trickle down in future years. We're also looking at a vehicle that is fairly complex, so we'll have to see how the reliability of it goes over the long haul. GM does have a good reputation of reliability in recent years, so we expect it to do well, but it'll be interesting to see how all this new tech works together. An exciting new vehicle. I was grateful for the chance to be able to test it out, and we look forward to seeing it on the trail.